In Mao's China, loyalty was never protection. It was bait. Gao Gang learned this too late. He was the rising star of the revolution. The man Mao trusted to run the Northeast, the industrial heart of the new People's Republic. A war hero, a strategist, a loyal servant. But in 1953, ambition met paranoia. Whispers began, accusations followed, and the man Mao once praised as the pillar of the state became the enemy Mao had been waiting for. According to historians Roderick MacFarquhar and Frederick Teiwes, Gao's downfall was not just a purge. It was a warning to every member of the Communist Party. Even the loyal can be erased. Even the favored can fall. This is the story of the man who rose faster than anyone and then vanished almost overnight. Gao Gang's rise didn't begin in Beijing. It began on the edges of the empire. Poor villages, coal dust, and warlords tearing China apart. Born in 1905 in Shanxi province, Gao grew up in the kind of hunger and violence that built revolutionaries. He joined the communist movement young, and unlike others who hesitated, Gao threw himself into the fight with a brutality that made him stand out. By the early 1930s, while most party leaders were running from Chiang Kai-shek's extermination campaigns, Gao did something dangerous. He stayed. He built underground bases, recruited peasants, fought guerrilla battles, and spilled blood when he had to. Historians like Lüthi and Odd Arne Westad note that Gao developed a reputation early: loyal, ruthless, efficient, exactly the type Mao liked to keep close, and eventually the type Mao liked to destroy. During the Yan'an period, 1935 to 1945, Gao became one of the rising young cadres. Mao watched carefully. He absorbed Mao's teachings. He adopted Mao's political style: struggle, pressure, purges, control. He also learned the most important skill in the Communist Party: how to survive Mao's moods. By the end of the war with Japan, Gao had built real power in the Northeast. And Mao noticed. Gao was no longer just another revolutionary. He was becoming a man with his own base, his own soldiers, his own influence. A man rising too fast. A man Mao would one day see as a threat. When the People's Republic of China is born in October 1949, Gao Gang is no longer just a revolutionary commander. He becomes something far more dangerous: a man with real power. Mao sends him to rule the entire Northeast region, China's industrial heart, the place the Soviets call the key to China's future. And Gao rules it like a warlord wrapped in red cloth. Factories, railways, minerals, weapons, all report directly to him. Not to Beijing, not to Zhou Enlai, not even to Liu Shaoqi, only to Gao Gang. Historian Roderick MacFarquhar writes, by 1950, Gao's Northeast Empire was the closest thing the PRC had to an independent state. Mao sees it. He smiles. He even praises Gao publicly. That is Mao's first trick. Praise the man he intends to test. During the Korean War, 1950 to 1953, Gao becomes the logistics master. He moves troops, weapons, supplies through his territory. With efficiency no one else in the party can match. The generals respect him. The soldiers adore him. Even the Soviets, who trust almost no one, begin to rely on him. And that is when Gao begins to believe. Something fatal. that he is not just serving the revolution, he is shaping it. By 1952, Gao Gang is one of the 5 most powerful men in China. Mao watches him rise, watches him accumulate allies, watches him build a power base no one else has, and then Mao does what Mao always does. When someone grows too quickly, he begins to whisper. Not commands, not accusations, just a simple, deadly seed. Gao Gang is becoming interesting. In Mao's China, interesting means dangerous, and dangerous means a man whose fall has already begun. Long before he realizes it, Gao Gang doesn't know it yet, but by late 1953, his fate is already sealed. He believes he is rising, but in Mao's world, anyone who rises too fast is already falling. What destroys Gao is not what he does. It's what Mao allows him to believe he can do. According to historian Frederick Teiwes, Gao's greatest mistake was assuming Mao's private words were the same as Mao's true intentions. They never were. When Mao complains privately about Liu Shaoqi and Zhou Enlai, Gao thinks he's being invited to replace them. He thinks Mao is hinting at a realignment. He thinks Mao wants him to take initiative. Mao says nothing clearly. He simply lets Gao talk, let him plan, lets the rope tighten. In late 1953, Gao begins lobbying senior leaders, Chen Yun, Deng Xiaoping, Rao Shushi, telling them Mao is considering new leadership arrangements. Every word Gao speaks is reported back to Mao. Every meeting he holds is logged and recorded. The walls are closing, and he doesn't feel them. By January 1954, Mao springs the trap. The CCP convenes an expanded Politburo meeting. Gao Gang walks in expecting influence. He walks out as an enemy. Liu Shaoqi strikes first, accusing Gao of building an independent kingdom in the northeast. Zhou Enlai accuses him of factionalism. Chen Yun accuses him of disloyalty. Then Mao speaks, calm, cold, final. He calls Gao ambitious. He says Gao tried to divide the party. He denies ever giving Gao encouragement. He washes his hands clean. Historians like Roderick MacFarquhar call it one of Mao's most perfect political ambushes. Gao sits silently. He looks from face to face. No one speaks for him. Not one. These are the same men he thought he could replace. He leaves the room knowing exactly what has happened. Mao baited him, watched him, and chose the moment to strike. The man once called, the most trusted regional chief in the country, becomes overnight China's most dangerous traitor. The fall is complete, but the end is not yet. By January 1954, Gao Gang is still smiling, still attending meetings, still writing reports, still pretending he doesn't hear the footsteps behind him. But inside the party center in Beijing, the verdict is already written. According to historian Roderick MacFarquhar, by the time Gao realized he was doomed, the purge machinery had already closed around him like iron. The end begins quietly. A phone call, a request to meet, no explanation. Gao is ordered to move into a guest house near Zhongnanhai. A rest home, the party calls it. But every door has guards. Every window has watchers. Every conversation is monitored. This is not a rest home. It is a cage. For weeks, Gao is interrogated. Not with screams, Not with torture, with silence. Officials demand confessions. They slide reports across the table. They tell him he plotted a coup. They tell him Liu Shaoqi has testified. They tell him he tried to split the party. Gao denies it, then hesitates, then breaks. Historian Frederick Teiwes writes that Gao lost hope completely once he understood the truth. Mao was not testing him. Mao was erasing him. In late winter, his wife and family are taken away for questioning. Gao is left alone in his room. No clock, no calendar, no idea what day it is. Only the same question, over and over. Who helped you betray the chairman? Gao answers nothing, because there is nothing left to answer. On December 17th, 1954, he makes his final choice. He locks the door, sits down, writes a short note no one is allowed to publish, and takes his own life. The Purge Committee announces the news weeks later. Gao Gang died of illness. The Communist Party does not bury traitors, it buries their memory. And in one night, the man Mao once called the Pillar of the Northeast is turned into a ghost the party pretends never existed. Gao Gang is dead. But Mao isn't finished with him. In early 1954, after Gao's suicide inside a heavily guarded compound in Beijing, the party does something unusual. It does not announce his death for months. Not because they are unsure what to say, but because Mao wants to decide what Gao Gang should become. Historian Roderick MacFarquhar writes that Mao treated Gao's downfall as a political experiment, a test to see how deeply fear could be planted inside the party without a public show trial. So while Gao's body is gone, his case continues. His allies are interrogated. His networks are dismantled. His supporters learn what happens when a rising star climbs too fast and shines in the wrong direction. Through late 1954, the party redefines Gao's memory piece by piece. He becomes a conspirator, a splitter of the party, a traitor, a man who tried to replace Liu Shaoqi and Zhou Enlai, a man who, supposedly, dreamed of dividing China in half. None of this is proven. Much of it is contradicted by internal documents released decades later. But proof isn't the point. Fear is. By 1955, the Gao Gang Rao Shushi anti-party clique becomes a case study taught inside party schools. Every cadre is required to read it. Every rising official is forced to memorize the lesson. Ambition is allowed. But only the ambition Mao approves. And that is how Gao Gang truly dies. Not in the interrogation room, not with a bullet or a syringe, but in the years afterward, in the silence, in the erased photographs, in the rewritten documents, in the fear that his name carved into the minds of everyone who once dared to rise too quickly. Mao didn't just eliminate a rival, he created a ghost story for the Communist Party, a warning that would haunt China for decades. After Gao Gang's death, there is no funeral, no coffin, no final words, not even a public announcement. Just a brief internal message in 1954. Gao Gang has committed suicide. Nothing more. The party does not speak his name again. His body is never shown. His burial place is never revealed. There is no grave for his family to mourn at. No ashes. No sign he ever existed. This was Mao's final punishment. Erase the man. Erase the memory. Historian Frederick Teiwes writes that the purge of Gao Gang became the ultimate internal warning inside the CCP, not for the public, but for every official who sat near Mao. The message was simple. If Gao, with all his loyalty, all his victories, all his rank, could be erased overnight, then anyone could. And so fear settles in the party like dust. Senior leaders stop speaking freely. Jokes disappear. Meetings become silent. No one dares to stand out. No one dares to appear ambitious. No one dares to rise too quickly. The Gao Gang purge becomes a ghost that follows every official, not seen, not mentioned, but always there. Liu Shaoqi remembers it. Zhou Enlai remembers it. Peng Dehuai remembers it. Deng Xiaoping remembers it. Even decades later, when Mao begins the Cultural Revolution and turns the party against itself once again, the survivors whisper the same sentence. This is another Gao Gang. Because that is what Gao became. Not a man, not a hero, not a traitor, but a template, a warning, a silent threat that outlived his body. And in Mao's China, sometimes a warning is more powerful than a life.